Good day. Welcome to another webinar brought to you as part of our My Brain Matters series. Today we have Gavin Fish with us. Gavin was the principal of Fisher High for many years and will be talking to us about the often controversial topic of do marks matter. Gavin, thank you for giving of your time.
Good evening, everyone, and a warm welcome to you from a surprisingly chilly Cape Town. Thank you for joining us. We're going to be looking at that wonderful question of do marks matter for the next hour or so, and I hope I managed to keep your attention for that length of time. I was in teaching for 34 years, the last 12 of which were as principal. And in those 34 years, I spent an enormous amount of time dealing with marks. The process of awarding marks has changed very little over those 34 years, but my attitude to it has. So let's go on this journey together. But first, let's establish a little bit of context. And you see, those are our children when they were young. They are magnificent human beings. They are kind. They will rush over to a statue where a bunny is in distress and will attempt to lift the bunny to safety. And our children are beautifully naive and have the most wonderful values. And it is therefore that as parents, when we are under threat, when our children's well-being is under threat, no opposition is too scary for us. We, the mild-hearted zebra, will chase down that leopard. We do acknowledge, however, that there will come a time when our child is going to have to face the leopards of life on their own. And in as much as we will provide them with an umbrella, Wellington boots, and a rain jacket, they do need to don that and to walk into the storms with the determination to face up to what it is. But we do remain involved, and we do ask the question as we see our children's progress or lack of progress: do marks matter, or do they matter in the way we have always thought them to? This young girl is sitting in class in the 1880s in London. You can sense her desperate boredom and a desire to be anywhere else but in the class. I think the same goes for the boy seated behind her. He's expressing it in a slightly different form of body language. I'm not so sure that it is any different for children today, 140 years down the line. There's still a significant portion of them for whom marks just do not matter. Our kids are on a spectrum from they couldn't care less to they care too much, and there are a range of different experiences in between the two. The couldn't care less kids are high-fiving each other when they get 41% and therefore pass the subject. And the care too much kids live in a bubble of sadness, anxiety, and depression over the quality of their marks and what that says about them. And for us as educators or the parents tonight, where do we lie on that spectrum? To what extent do we not care about marks? And to what extent do we care perhaps too much about them? So who are you tonight? Are you part of the they do count? Of course they count. How could you possibly be even questioning that? Our children's marks are critical for their future employability, etc., etc. And then there are the more mellow amongst us who may say, hey, the marks don't matter. They don't matter in the way we always thought them to do. Relax, get off the kids' backs. And then there are those that will say, oh, marks do matter, but there's something going wrong out there. There's something in the focusing on marks that is just not working out. Or you maybe know, marks don't matter, but the equation is not as simple as that. 4 options there for you, which is why the Afrikaner have really got it right. Ja, nee. Ja, nee. Okay, so let's tackle this issue. My audience tonight, I'm going to guess that the majority of you say, yes, marks do matter, but you have a suspicion that the way marks are constructed in this day and age, pressure around them is not healthy, and you're looking for insights into that. Okay. Argument number one, marks matter. Yeah, they do matter. As a former high school principal and parent of 2 former teenagers, marks matter. And marks particularly mattered to me towards the end of grade 11. And I would call the grade 11s together with all their parents, and I would announce it as an acceleration evening. And I'd put inspirational photographs of people climbing to the top of a mountain and looking for the next mountain to climb. Essentially, I said to them that your marks do matter in the sense that you will be submitting them for application to tertiary institutions of whatever their nature for your employment or your studies beyond school. And I challenge them to put away poor work habits and to invest time in their academic progress. It does count. If you get a bachelor pass in matric, you can apply for a university degree course, but in reality, you're going to have to do a heck of a lot better than scoring 450% to secure your place. And even if you just get an NSC pass, you're still going to have to get that if you're going to apply for college. We know that science and pure maths are still essential when applying for certain degree courses. One of the major factors, not the only, in bursaries and scholarships is your academic performance. And slightly differently, if you're wanting to study further visual arts, dramatic arts, dance, or music, you are going to have to provide a portfolio. And it's going to have to be a portfolio of excellence or of potential excellence. Yes, you may say the entrepreneur makes it without needing a matric or a particular good matric. But let's be honest here, those that do are 1 in tens of thousands. Politicians also require or do not require academic strength beyond matric as well. Okay, arguments in favor of this. Number one, from my perspective, doing well academically boosts your confidence. Nothing succeeds like success. Your self-esteem grows when you achieve marks that are a good reflection of your ability. Secondly, it is critically important for a teenager to learn to delay gratification, to not do the nicest, most immediately satisfying thing, to put that on hold while you go for your longer-term goals. Things that in the end, in the longer run, are both important and urgently of value to you. You need to put away that which satisfies in the short term. And thirdly, our challenge to our kids is to live up to being the finest version of yourself, not of others, and you will find that a pervading theme through the time we're going to spend together this evening. Kids must be the finest version of themselves, and they must be challenged with that. Fourthly, the teenage brain is still forming. It is only by the age of 25 that our brains are fully formed. And while they are forming, while they are creating pathways, the ability to think, to reason, to study, to argue, to critically solve problems is part of that formation and largely achieved through school and the subjects you do at school. But the bottom line is this: the better your marks in matric, the broader the choices and options available to you. So please don't tell me you don't know what you want to do after school, so therefore you're not going to be studying towards your matric. Even if you are clueless as to how you want to spend your post-matric days, the better your marks, the broader the choices and options available to you. So if our kids are achieving, then marks matter to them, because that legitimizes the efforts you are putting in, because marks matter. But I'm afraid the converse of that if you are doing poorly, then marks don't matter. You can then use that argument to justify your lack of effort. Is it as simple as that? Well, I give a talk from time to time at schools and to parents, and I suggest to them tongue-in-cheek that I have learned over the last 34 years how a teenager can fail effectively or do dismally. And here are my suggestions to them. Number one, that they should fight with their parents. Of course, I'm studying, Mom. What do you think I am doing? With a good dollop of sarcasm. Relax, Dad. You are far too tense. I've got plenty of time. Slam your door, be obnoxious and rude. When your parents leave you alone, you will have succeeded in your mission of not working. Secondly, sadly, believe the negative voices in your head. You can't do this. You have never understood maths. You never will, so why even bother trying? Or I just don't know where to start. Or slightly more cynical, hey, relax, Gavin. You can always pass at the year end. It's only June. Thirdly, to be disorganized, to lose at least 2 of your textbooks or notebooks, and to realize this the day before your exam. Make sure you are unsure as to what you must study. Make sure that you have to phone a buddy at 9 p.m. the night before the exam in order to work out exactly what it is that you're going to need to study. Lastly, stay at home in the last few days before you write. Miss all the revision lessons to catch up on the work you haven't started to study yet. Are you seeing any pattern of behavior that might be familiar to you? Fourthly, pretend you are studying. Open your textbook in front of you. Read it occasionally. Don't underline, don't highlight, don't write down keywords. Just kind of read it. And of course, do it on your bed at an angle as close to completely horizontal as you can. Normally got a few laughs at that stage. Fifthly, ignore your goals. Better still, don't have any goals at all, then you can't be disappointed when you don't achieve those marks. Think of today only. Tomorrow, we can worry about becoming a doctor, a plumber, a teacher, a nature conservationist, an executive secretary, or whatever. But later, mañana, not now. Pretend you are studying is already been dealt with. Ignore the obvious. Don't ask for help with the fact that you freeze up in exams, that you walk out devastated, that you haven't managed to complete what you really knew. Tell nobody that you are dealing with emotional issues that make studying difficult. Carry your own burden and never share it with those who would be desperately keen and totally willing to help you with it. Blame someone. It was the load shedding. It was the cold that I felt coming on. It was, Dad, my history teacher's absolutely shocking. Nobody understands. Nobody gets marks in their class. And so tragically, I had a child with the exam paper that had achieved a failing mark confronting me. Why did you fail me? How's that for the ultimate blame shift? And I had to say to her, my girl, I didn't fail you. You failed all on your own. All I did was confirm to you that you hadn't failed. Too often teens are upset by the results they didn't get with the work they didn't do. Let's try and avoid that upset in the course of this evening. Lastly, and there's a reason I'm keeping this as last, is procrastinate. The teens love this. Delay, delay, delay. Find nicer things to do. Remember the delayed gratification point? Wait until the absolute last minute before you start studying. Spend more time on your cell phone, longer in the shower, at the gym, examine your skin endlessly, start a new novel. The thicker, the better. Okay, well, let's look at these 7, and let me ask you, are you experiencing some or many of these? That they can ensure they do dismally by fighting with their parents, procrastinating, believing the negative voices in their head, being totally disorganized, ignoring or not having any goals, ignoring the burdens, the elephants that they carry, and blame somebody. I want to spend some time on procrastination because procrastination theory is a growing science. Procrastination is easiest to deal with if it is an expression of teen laziness, teen lethargy, teen wanting to live in the moment. But there are other reasons why teens procrastinate. They procrastinate if they are daunted, if the workload is just too big, if the 300 pages of the history textbook are so massive, I cannot face starting. Teens procrastinate because they fear failure. They fear rejection or ridicule from their peers if they do really badly. And so self-defeatedly, they do not commence their work because they are fearing that failure. And lastly, and this is a disease of the 2020s, performance anxiety. There is so much pressure outside and inside my mind to perform excellently that out of my fear for not doing it, I won't start studying. Really look at procrastination in your teen if it is a relevancy, and try and understand the factors where it may be more than just laziness. I met a teen who spoke to me and she said, I'm a bit troubled. I got 90% in my matric last year, but I wept. And I wept because my 90s were not as good as I wanted them to be. And I was immediately reminded of one of the Olympic gold medalists saying, if you are not enough without the gold medal around your neck, you never will be with it. It is more important for teenagers to get comfortable in their own skins than to live with the desperate dream of their gold medal. This is increasingly a sad generation, not my word, coming out of the medical profession. Sadness is stressed, anxious, and depressed teenagers who are wrapping themselves up in tighter and tighter fists of discomfort and non-functionality. Where is this coming from? Social media has to take some of the blame here. You see, our children are presented with the curated images of people they know and people they don't know. And they are unsure which of those masks to adopt for themselves. So they try on mask after mask and forget that for every photograph posted on Instagram or Facebook, there are 10,000 others that that person took that did not make them seem as attractive, as beautiful. And that's not even if the pictures have been altered or amended to put yourself in a better light. We as parents have to examine the relationship we have in terms of our child's progress. We need to be incredibly careful that we are not sitting on their backs trying to direct their movements at a speed and at a tempo that we hope for our kids. Let me ask you to consider the following. If your teen is failing to perform to your expectations or to your genuine belief in their abilities and your longing for them to do as well as they can. Sometimes we need to ask the question if your child has learning difficulties. Are they ADHD? Do they have eyesight issues that are impacting the ability to see on the page? Are they not hearing the teacher? Do they have hearing complexities? Do they qualify for extra time or to write in isolation? I really believe we are living in a generation of over-diagnosed complexities, but I believe that it is a question worth asking, and I have personal experience of that. We need to stop glamorizing overworking. We need to make sure that sacrifices of things that really count do not occur, should not be applauded, that working hard is meritorious, overworking just isn't. Parents, I want you to think about this as well. A matriculant said to me once, when we were talking about his marks, and his marks weren't great in the academic subjects, "Sir, I think with my hands." His hands were the expression of his intelligence. We need to tell our children that it is no sin, no disadvantage, no lesser choice not to be a doctor or a lawyer. We need to teach kids that it's okay to work with their hands and to build cool stuff. Whether you are a master craftsman or whatever, it is no lesser destination for yourself. With the Olympic Games, I don't know if you are familiar with these abbreviations. You can set a world record. You can do a world leading performance. You can create an area record, which is a continent record, a national record. But the one I am most interested in is personal best ever. Two of our women 400-meter hurdlers did not make the final. They did make the semi-final, and unlike the rest of their peers, they did achieve a personal best ever for both of them. It's not the same as making the finals at the Olympics, but it definitely is a motivation and a comfort knowing I did my absolute best. I see too often teenagers being encouraged to be the best, that second is nowhere. You must strive to be first. No, our kids must strive to do their best and to sit with a warm satisfaction when they have. Marks aren't everything, but saying that they don't matter at all is a lie. It is clear that marks aren't everything, but we need to get around the notion that we can dispense with them completely. So, agreed. Marks just do not matter, but they do not matter that much. If we're going to say that, my computer is about to run out. So I'm going to ask you to take a deep breath and pause for a moment. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. If marks don't matter, then what does? That's a fair question to ask. That question has spawned 1,000 book titles. Some of them excellent books. Know what matters most, measure what matters. Okay, what matters? Firstly, the purpose of school is for you to not need school. I told my matrics in a final assembly, my boys, you need to get to the stage where you can say straight, eyeball to eyeball with me, I no longer have need for you. I can now do it on my own. And two of the cheeky blighters came to my office immediately after assembly, stuck just their head around the door with a big smile on their face, said, "Sir, we no longer need you." I used to ask them as well, when do I no longer need to check your homework? And the matrics would say, some of them, "Sir, you always have to check my homework, otherwise I'm not going to do it." And others said to me, "Sir, June. By June, you no longer need to correct my homework because in June of my matric year, I will be motivated adequately for you not to need to do it." And a girl at the back of a classroom put up her hand and said quietly, "So you have never needed to check my homework. I have not done my homework for you. I have done my homework because it is important for what I am aspiring to be." Bingo. Secondly, your education is what remains after you have forgotten everything you have been taught. It's a bit of a tongue twister, so just read that again for yourself. You will not remember what the constituent components of an organism or the nature of an oxbow lake from your geography classes for very long after your schooling. You have to ask yourself what remains. Very often it is the impression of a teacher that has been left on the life of your child, but they must be asked, what is your education beyond the marks you have received? What really matters? Okay, I'm going to give you 6 points, just 6. What really matters? The smarts matter. Now, I've used a primary school analogy here in terms of the multiple intelligences. Basically, it says that there are different forms of intelligence. None is of less value than another. So school tends to celebrate word smartness and logic smartness. Good schools manage to give exposure to some of the others as well. I saw recently a grade 9 boy, a 15-year-old, who said, "I am dumb." And I tried to unravel this with him, why he would feel that he was dumb. And he said, after he'd done the test with me, "I am body smart and I am music smart." But neither of those were available to him at the particular school that he was at. And so the only opportunity that he then had to measure himself was against those who were logic smart and self smart and word smart. As soon as I looked at those two and found ways to allow him to give expression to them, he changed his thinking and stopped determining his value by those who were logical, mathematical, and linguistically strong. We cannot let what our kids cannot do interfere with what they can do. The notion of being dumb will impact them horribly. I do hope that your school remembers that teaching music, is just as important as teaching mathematics. I know in the excellence of teachers that they will convey that, but I'm hoping that schools give recognition to that. I'm hoping that your school commends rugby achievements as much as it does the achievements of the debating society. I was at a boys-only school a while back, and at this boys-only school, the announcement was that after 5 years of table tennis, these 2 boys had never been beaten. The roof came down. The cheering went on and on. These 2 boys, these 2 matric boys, embarrassedly were made to stand, and they were celebrated. It was a school that recognized achievement. You need a schooling where you have a chairperson of the sandwich making club, a badge wearing. And these kids every Tuesday morning have made 8 loaves of bread worth of sandwiches and dropped them off at a local orphanage before school. You need to have an under 14D netball team. Those who play for reasons other than the marks they will get in netball, that can wear war paint, can sing your school's war chants and songs, and can enjoy themselves together without needing to make it to the B or the A team as well. What really matters, secondly, that we sort out the ridiculous distortions around the notion of value between an introvert and an extrovert. Incredible book called Quiet. It's a must-read. It's the power of the quiet child in a world that cannot stop talking. And we have created a culture of personality rather than a culture of values and being a person of value. Society has deemed introverts kind of a lesser personality characteristic. We live in the extrovert ideal age, that you need to be outgoing, outspoken, colorful, and loud, and that is much more preferable than, you're quite shy, you really should get out a bit more. Imagine an extrovert being told you should be quieter a bit more. Introvert children are magnificent. Group work is not the be-all and end-all. Open plan offices do not suit everybody. In fact, true geniuses of society, inventors, have very often been introverted people. An introvert simply draws energy in the company of themselves, whereas an extrovert draws energy and inspiration in the company of others. Introverts become ambiverts. They have the capacity to act in an extroverted fashion when their professional circumstances demand it, but that energy level is finite. The quiet child does have power in a world that cannot stop talking. In fact, it's admirable. Quite often a boy will date a girl who is quieter than he is because she has an admirable, in his eyes, approach to life. Number 3, what really matters, the concealed curriculum, that which lies between the mathematical equations, that which lies between the lines of poetry. I was fascinated by seeing this notice board, and that's why the picture is of such poor quality. It was a notice board on a building for the Carnegie Institute of Technology, and it said a fascinating, apparently contradictory statement that 85% of your financial success is due to your personality, your ability to communicate, negotiate, and lead, and only 15% is due to technical knowledge. And the business community started to say to me, Gavin, it is no longer adequate for you to send me children thrashing their academic marks and scoring high A aggregates. I need pupils who can critically think, who can find solutions to the societal problems, who can find solutions to the complexities of a business situation. Secondly, who are creative, who can think outside the box, who don't view creativity as I can paint a painting or I can't, whose creativity means that they can look in a diverse range of ideas as to how to function. Thirdly, can they collaborate? Can they work with others? Or will they be prickly and or confrontational or incapable of considering the opinion of others? And fourthly, the best expression of collaboration is your ability to communicate with others, to convey ideas in a compelling way, but also to listen to the compelling ideas of others. And when I took this to my staff and I said that this is the hidden curriculum, we tend to give the curriculum all the focus and we don't focus on these things. And I need to know how you're going to bring these 4 into your classrooms. And a whole number of them were offended and said, Gavin, that is by definition who we are and what we teach. Those are soft skills that are integral to our conveying the curriculum. Okay, what really matters? Effort before excellence matters. As a pupil, my report card never matched up to the superb performances of my brother and my two sisters. They were blooming rocket scientists, and I was all rocket and no science. And whereas they routinely brought home report cards with a good 20% more than my marks, my parents were quick to commend or to criticize the efforts I had put in. They very seldom said that 67% should be 72%. They did ask me, what effort did you put into these exams? And I do remember being criticized when I had let my life get out of sync and I'd not given my exam preparation the amount of effort that was required. At Fisher High School, I used to hand out principals awards, those garish, huge stickers that primary school principals hand out. Anyway, I said that it needed to be 2 kids from your class, not the super kids that smashed the tests and scored in the 90s. I wanted kids who had showed tremendous improvement or who had risen to their level of ability. Anyway, in August of a year, matriculant stormed into my office with a test paper. He banged it down on my desk and he said, "Sir, look at this." And it was 40% for his maths test. And I said to him in a joke, "My boy, just tell me, why is this so exciting?" And he said, "Sir, it's the first time ever I've passed a maths test in grade 10 or 11. Finally, the end of August of my matric, I have passed a maths test, and watch, sir, I will pass maths in finals." He did. You know, the greats, Lionel Messi on the soccer field, said, "I start early and I stay late, day after day, year after year." Excuse me. It took me 17 years and 114 days to become an overnight success. We live in an instant generation where becoming an overnight success is what is expected. There is almost an expectation that life must provide my success. It must provide me a first job with a first paycheck such that I can buy this type of car and have this type of key giving me access to this type of house. The rewards of life come closer to the end of the journey than to the beginning, and we need to convey this to our teens. So effort before excellence, of course, always. Let's make a mental note to never, ever again say to our kids, "This is not good enough. You can do better." However true it may be, replace it with a series of questions. Are you satisfied with this mark? Is this mark the finest version of yourself? And then hit them with, could you do better? And how could you do better? And how can I assist you to do better if you are not satisfied with the marks in front of you? What really matters? The 5th point, beauty matters, excellence matters, and curiosity matters. I bet you there's not one of you out there who can name that ballerina. You can probably all identify Roger Federer as the tennis player. A very sharp-eyed photographer realized that the physical position in which the ballerina and the tennis player are standing in or performing in reflects each other. And the point is that excellence is not just seen as a ballerina or a tennis player. We don't have to have a stereotypical understanding, and that woman, that ballerina, that dancer has trained herself over years and years to get herself to being excellent in her chosen pursuit. I used to tell the rugby players at school, you must go to the school production. "Oh, so we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that." And I said, They are equally as excellent as you are. You cannot have this notion that we are the best. You've got to learn to appreciate. You will never be on the stage as an actor or an actress. I get that. But you have to learn to appreciate the excellence in others. This painting done by a very famous South African is worth hundreds of thousands of rands. No, it's not. It is by a matric pupil who submitted this as part of her final portfolio, and it now hangs in the foyer of her school. It is excellent, and teenagers must learn to appreciate a diversity of excellences. We've got to tell them to be curious. We've got to tell them that my day walking on the Great Wall of China was a profoundly impactful experience for me, that I would go back there in a heartbeat, that its history and its story is magnificent, that if you look behind me in the photograph, you will see the Great Wall snaking its way over cliff tops and mountain tops as far as the eye can see. We need to tell them that the Californian redwoods in Yellowstone National Park in America are 3 times the height and the girth of any trees that we have in South Africa. We need to encourage them to make their heroes people who have done really significant and inspirational things, that having a role model as the Kardashian compared to this young lady, and I'm not going to tell you her name because you are going to Google search her and read her full story. She escaped Afghanistan. As a refugee, found her way to Denmark, and there saw girls and women playing soccer, something that she had never had the opportunity of doing herself. She has now played 100 soccer matches for her country, Denmark. She has been Premier League winner for Paris Saint-Germain and an American team. Meanwhile, she has continued her medical studies with a view to being a surgeon who can do plastic surgery on war wound victims. She's inspirational. We need to have series of hero posters, of hero people who we can inspire to be like. I had great fun at school taking the top sports people, those that were heroes for many of our pupils, and saying, do you know that in COVID, he gave 20 million US dollars? Do you know that she finances 2 schools entirely? Do you know that X and Y and Z are living lives of value over and above their sporting brilliance? Number 6, and this is the last point, what really matters. It matters that our teens need to learn to do it scared, that they need to learn to do their oral in class assertively with a clear voice, with the gestures relevant to their topic, while shaking and quaking and quivering behind the rostrum where they are doing it. That they need to learn not to narrow their lives down to a very thin list of what they are known to be competent at and skilled with. They must be prepared to suck at something new, to venture out into the cold waters in the hope that they will discover new skills, etc. This is probably one of the most impactful quotes. It's by John Sinclair, and my teenagers and my parents have attested to its truth, that failure is a bruise, it's not a tattoo. That your failure in a test does not brand you as a failure. That we only become a failure when we stop trying. Our kids do need to acknowledge this, that it is not social suicide to try something and to fail at it. It is much better to live a life of curiosity that is prepared to embrace things, than to narrow yourself down out of the fear of peer rejection. What has this entire talk done? This series of points, the Japanese have defined as ikigai, and ikigai says that the crossover point between these four facets is your destiny. And I found that it was basically what I and any educator with a heart for their teens has been doing anyway. Firstly, your parenting and your schooling, you've got to help your teen identify what they are good at, where they are skillful, where they are above average. And I often ask them, where are you above average? What particular talent or skill or ability or strength do you have? What do you find comes to you naturally? What do you find that you wake up looking forward to doing? What are you complimented on by others? And then secondly, you've got to combine that with what you love, with what you are passionate about. What are your soapbox issues? What do you hope to change in the world later on? Which topics push your buttons? What are you so passionate about that you lose track of time while doing it? And parents, we have to give our teens opportunities to discover what they're good at. So if they do skateboarding for exactly 6 months, and after we've spent a goodly sum of money on the leathers, they choose to do something else, that is okay. They need to experiment in order to find the mask of which we spoke earlier, that is a true reflection of themselves. They will only discover what they love, they're passionate about, if we help them to understand their curiosity, excellence, and beauty. And thirdly, we've got to teach our children that you will only find your real significance in what the world needs as well. We spend a lifetime chasing success, which is what we achieve for ourselves, rather than significance, which is what we do for others, which is why I'm delighted that schools increasingly have a service component to their extramural activities. Let me give you an example of this. I spoke with a woman earlier, and what she was good at, she said, I'm a really good artist. I've had a couple of solo exhibitions. And what are you passionate about? She says, I'm passionate about second chances and giving people the opportunity to rehabilitate their lives. And what did the world need? She said the world needs therapy and opportunities. And it hit her like a ton of bricks. I can start art therapy lessons because it is the crossover point between my artistic skill, my passion for people, and the need people have to be restored, to be rehabilitated. Of course, what you can get paid for certainly helps that equation as well. Let me close with an analogy for you of the bamboo seed, because the bamboo seed, unlike others, does not come up above the ground and grow into a plant when it is thrown on the ground, unlike the other plants and trees around us. In fact, the bamboo only comes up above the ground in about its 4th year. In the first 3 years, it is sending out roots. It is stabilizing itself. It is identifying its way through the earth to nutrients and preparing itself to emerge. And we all know that the bamboo can grow up to 30 centimeters in a day in its initial growth. What has been seen to have taken no root and has shown no fruit accelerates incredibly later on. So, mom and dad, there may come a time when you are around the braai fire with friends, and a friend will say to you, your boy, your teenage boy, is such a gentleman. And you will say, who are you speaking about? Your teenagers will start to exhibit the values that you have been trying desperately to instill in them for years in the homes of others before they necessarily do it in your own home. But persist. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is older, he will not depart from it. So once you have said for the 300th time, you cannot speak to your brother like that. Persist in the hope that it is actually being internalized. So to answer the question humbly, from my point of view, do marks matter? Yes, they do matter. Yes, they do matter for the range of reasons that I have said. But they certainly do not matter if your child is going to feel compartmentalized and not as valuable or as intelligent as others, if they've been given too narrow an idea of what success is. Not if they cannot be exposed to what is between the lines of the curriculum, etc., etc. By all means, let's help our children with everything we have to achieve to their level of ability to be the finest version of themselves. Thank you, people. Thank you for listening and being a part of the evening. Bye-bye now.